In the comment area, some netizens left a message saying that the average IQ of Chinese people is over 105, much higher than that of India. So China is more successful than India. I have never been very interested in the idea of IQ. This vague standard is difficult to quantify accurately. Using it as a reference often leads to wrong conclusions. But this topic is quite interesting. In this video, we will discuss whether the success of Chinese people is closely related to IQ or something else. According to the so-called IQ analysis, the average IQ of East Asian nations, China, Japan, and Korea is the highest, about 105, higher than Europe and the United States. Indeed, today's East Asian economies have shown considerable competitiveness. But anyone with a little historical knowledge knows that Western civilization is the main driving force for human prosperity today. Archimedes in ancient Greece had achievements in mathematics, physics, engineering, and other fields that East Asian countries could hardly match even in modern times. Leonardo da Vinci in the Renaissance was a versatile person who was good at painting, music, architecture, mathematics, biology, astronomy, geography, physics, civil engineering, and other fields. Many of the concepts proposed by Leonardo da Vinci are unimaginable today, not to mention the East Asian countries that were immersed in the dark Confucian 8-part essays at the same time. The 4 great inventions that the Chinese are most proud of are actually controversial. Although I am Chinese, I don't think they are as important as they are advertised. The founder of classical physics, the master of mathematics Newton, and the proposer of the theory of relativity Einstein, the 2 most outstanding geniuses in human history, are both Westerners. Not to mention the application geniuses such as Watt, Tesla, and Edison. By the way, the founders of modern computer, Turing and von Neumann, are both Westerners. It can be said that the Industrial Revolution and Technological Revolution that have continued to this day are all based on the contributions of the West. East Asian countries only have gained advantages in the field of engineering by taking advantage of their own hard work, organization, and discipline. So why has China today become the world's factory and the only country in the world with a full industrial chain? What do the Chinese rely on? I actually replied to this netizen in the comment area that we rely on the memory of hunger. According to statistics, from 108 BC to 1911 AD, there were at least 1,828 famines in China. Almost every year, and each region suffered in turn, without exception. The so-called prosperity in Chinese history was only when the emperor and the people of some regions lived a decent life. Famine has always accompanied every dynasty in China. From 1941 to 1943, locust plagues and droughts broke out in Hunan. Coupled with the Japanese invasion and continuous wars, a severe famine broke out, killing more than 2 million people. From 1946 to 1948, civil wars and diseases caused famines in Hunan, Guangdong, and Guangxi, killing millions of people. From 1958 to 1962, tens of million people starved to death in China because of the Great Leap Forward. In these human tragedies, cannibalism is not uncommon. In the thousands of years of history that the Chinese are proud of, the first time that the whole nation was fully fed was after the reform and opening up in 1978. Everyone who has been to China knows that when Chinese people get together, almost all the food they order exceeds the limit, and most of it is wasted because they can't finish it. Chinese people are always afraid of not having enough to eat, especially meat, the more the better. It seems that ordering less dishes is disrespectful to friends. During the long famine, the Chinese also realized that they could not rely on anyone, and only by being rich could they survive. Therefore, when China formulated its national development strategy, it decided to do everything. Heavy industry is related to national defense security and must be developed. And light industry is related to people's livelihood and cannot be ignored. Agriculture is related to food security and must be taken seriously. The Chinese government even established a vegetable basket project to stabilize the supply and price of meat, vegetables, and fruits. This is also one of the key reasons why prices in China are still very low. When China and the Soviet Union were on good terms, they did not believe that the Soviet Union would provide nuclear protection for China, and they had to have nuclear weapons themselves. China did not want to rely on Soviet support in the field of heavy industry and introduced a large number of industrial projects from the Soviet Union, from rifles to tanks to missiles, all independently developed. After the reform and opening up, China joined the World Division of Labor System, using shirts and shoes to exchange foreign exchange and by Boeing aircraft. But the Chinese wanted to build their own commercial aircraft from the beginning. So, after decades of development, China can not only still produce shirts and shoes, but also learn to produce cars, high-speed trains, ships, and airplanes. The same is true in the IT field. The Chinese government has found various reasons to refuse international internet giants from using their monopoly to occupy the Chinese market, and has gained development space for domestic IT companies. For example, Google is used internationally, but China uses Baidu instead. The United States has eBay and Amazon, while China has Alibaba, Pinduoduo, and JD. The United States has Cisco, and China has Huawei. In short, China must have everything that the United States has. What the Americans don't have, the Chinese must also have. Due to the long-term memory of hunger, the cultural atmosphere formed in China is that the more the better. Therefore, once Chinese companies take the lead in a certain field, their production capacity will increase rapidly. In the face of the survival crisis, there is no saying that a few companies monopolize the market and make high profits together. Everyone is a competitor and must compete with the lowest price to determine the winner. So many foreigners don't understand why the Chinese have monopolized many industries, but still implement a low-price strategy. Don't the Chinese want to make money? In fact, they don't quite understand China's competitive culture, which is a life and death struggle, winner takes all, and no mercy. This is also the key reason why Chinese companies are difficult to defeat once they grow up. When Chinese electric car companies went out of China after a bloody battle in China, they found that their foreign competitors were still stuck in the good old days and were completely vulnerable. Therefore, Westerners use industrial tsunamis to describe China's impact and accuse China of overcapacity. In fact, as long as they calm down and recall the cruel competition at the beginning of the Western Industrial Revolution and overseas colonization, they can understand the strategy of Chinese companies today. It's just that the Chinese like to use civilized means such as competing in economy and technology, while the West likes to solve problems through war. But the West doesn't need to panic. The Chinese people's memory of hunger only extends to people born in the 1980s. That is, people around 40 years old now. When our generation gets old, China's competitiveness will decline. So, after our generation, you still have chances to lead the world. But you have to hold on, because there is still a long time.